The courtroom was packed, the air thick with anticipation. All eyes were on the young rookie officer standing tall, his confidence bordering on arrogance. Fresh out of the academy, he thought he knew it all: rules, procedures, and how to handle himself in a court of law. But today, he was about to learn a lesson he'd never forget. Facing him was a seasoned judge, a man who had seen every trick, every excuse, every ounce of bravado a rookie could muster. The officer smirked, ready to challenge the judge's authority. He believed he had the upper hand, convinced that his badge and title gave him power beyond question. But as the judge began to speak, the officer's confidence wavered. With a few words, the judge revealed something that left the entire courtroom in stunned silence. And in that moment, the rookie realized he wasn't as untouchable as he thought. The rookie officer, Officer James Carter, had always been a bit of a show-off. His rapid rise through the ranks had fed his ego, and he prided himself on his ability to handle difficult situations with ease. But today was different. He was in front of Judge Thompson, a man known for his no-nonsense approach and unshakable calm. Carter had seen the judge in action before, but this time he felt like he could challenge him. After all, he had just completed his latest mission successfully, and his pride was at an all-time high. When the courtroom tension grew thicker, Carter couldn't resist. With a smirk, he stood up, interrupting the judge's proceedings. The silence in the room was deafening. The few people present couldn't believe what they were witnessing. The young officer's challenge wasn't just bold, it was dangerous. But what Carter didn't know was that Judge Thompson wasn't the type to back down, especially when the stakes were higher than anyone realized. As Carter's challenge hung in the air, the courtroom buzzed with whispers. It was clear the rookie wasn't backing down, but Judge Thompson's eyes narrowed, his calm demeanor unwavering. The officer's words were sharp, questioning not just the ruling, but the judge's authority in a way no one dared to before. Everyone knew Carter's behavior was risky, but it wasn't until the judge spoke that they realized just how dangerous his arrogance had become. Judge Thompson slowly stood, his gavel still in hand. His voice, calm but piercing, cut through the tension. "You think you're the only one with power here, don't you, Officer Carter?" The words echoed in the silent room, but it wasn't the judge's question that unnerved Carter. It was the weight behind it. The judge wasn't simply responding to a challenge. He was preparing to reveal something that could unravel everything Carter thought he knew about the law. In the back of the room, an older officer, Lieutenant Harris, exchanged worried glances with a colleague. He'd seen rookies before, full of bravado, but Carter's disrespect felt different. There was more at play here, something even Harris couldn't place. He knew the rookie had crossed a line, but the question was, what would Judge Thompson do next? As the room fell into an almost suffocating silence, the tension built to a boiling point. Carter's smirk began to falter, his once confident posture shifting as he wondered if he had made a serious miscalculation. Meanwhile, Judge Thompson remained still, calculating, preparing to bring this confrontation to a conclusion that no one, least of all Carter, would expect. The room was so still it felt like time had stopped. Carter's heartbeat thundered in his chest as he stared at Judge Thompson, trying to read his next move. Every instinct told him to back down, but his pride kept him frozen. He had made it this far by never backing down from a challenge, but this felt different. He had underestimated the judge, and now the weight of his mistake pressed heavily on his shoulders. Judge Thompson didn't flinch. His gaze remained steady, unyielding, and for a moment, Carter couldn't shake the feeling that the judge knew something he didn't. Thompson took a slow step forward, the silence in the room amplifying the sound of his footsteps. "You think your badge gives you authority here?" The judge's voice was quiet, but sharp. "Let me remind you, Officer Carter, power is not something you're given, it's something you earn, and you've done nothing to earn my respect." Carter felt a chill crawl up his spine. It wasn't just the words that unsettled him, it was the way the judge said them, like they weren't just a reprimand, but a warning. For the first time, Carter started to feel the full weight of the situation. He wasn't just challenging authority in the courtroom. He was challenging a man who had spent decades working behind the scenes, a man who knew the law far better than he ever could. It started as just a simple lemonade stand on a quiet street, a little boy with a big heart, doing whatever he could to help his sick mom. Every day he stood there, selling cup after cup, hoping to raise enough money for her chemo treatments. People stopped by, touched by his story, dropping in extra dollars to support him. But no one could have imagined what happened next. One afternoon, as the boy wiped sweat from his forehead and poured another glass, a familiar face strolled by. It was none other than Clint Eastwood. At first, the boy didn't even recognize him. Just another customer, right? But then Eastwood did something that left everyone speechless. The entire street seemed to pause, watching as the legendary actor changed this boy's life in a way no one saw coming. What did he do? Stay tuned, because this story is about to take an unbelievable turn. The boy looked up, squinting in the sun as the man reached for his wallet. His hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from exhaustion. He had been out there all day, calling out to passers-by, hoping they'd stop. Some did, some didn't. But this man, something about him felt different. Clint Eastwood studied the stand for a moment. The handwritten sign, the worn-out table, the nearly empty pitcher of lemonade. Then his eyes landed on the boy. "How much for a cup?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. The boy hesitated before answering, not sure if he was imagining this. When he finally spoke, his voice was small. 50 cents. Eastwood pulled out his wallet, but instead of a few coins, he took out something else, something that made the boy's eyes widen. The few people nearby stopped talking, sensing something big was happening. But what was Clint Eastwood about to do? The boy's breath caught in his throat as he stared at the crisp $100 bill in Clint Eastwood's hand. He had never seen that much money in one place, let alone held it. "Keep the change," Eastwood said, sliding the bill onto the table. But he didn't walk away. He just stood there, watching the boy's reaction. People nearby whispered, some pulling out their phones, but the boy barely noticed. His fingers hovered over the money, his heart pounding. "Are you sure?" he finally asked, his voice shaky. Eastwood nodded. "What you doing here? It matters," he said. His gaze drifted to the photo taped to the stand, a picture of the boy and his mother, her smile warm but her eyes tired. Just then, a car pulled up across the street, and a man in a suit stepped out. He looked serious, almost out of place. The moment his eyes landed on Eastwood, everything changed. The man in the suit moved quickly, his polished shoes clicking against the pavement. His sharp eyes darted from the lemonade stand to Clint Eastwood, then to the boy. The air around them grew tense. People whispered, unsure of who he was or why he looked so urgent. The boy clutched the $100 bill tightly, afraid it might disappear if he let go. Eastwood, calm as ever, turned toward the man. "Something I can help you with?" he asked, his voice steady but unreadable. The man hesitated, then cleared his throat. "Mr. Eastwood, I need to speak with you. It's important." His tone was... The boy swallowed hard, sensing that whatever was inside would change everything. The boy's fingers trembled as he slowly pulled the envelope open. Inside was a neatly folded stack of papers, too many for just a simple note. His eyes scanned the words, but it took a moment for them to register. Then his breath caught. It was a check with more zeros than he had ever seen in his life. His heart pounded as he looked up at the man in the suit, then at Clint Eastwood, who gave him a small nod, as if to say, "Asterisk, go on, keep reading asterisk." The boy turned to the next page. His mother's name was there, hospital records, medical bills, and at the bottom, stamped and signed, asterisk paid in full, asterisk. His chest tightened. Was this real? Tears filled his eyes as he looked up at Eastwood, his voice barely above a whisper. "Did you?" Eastwood gave a small smile but said nothing. The man in the suit stepped forward. Mr. Eastwood heard about your story, he explained. He wanted to make sure your mom got the treatment she needed. The boy's legs felt weak. He could hardly process what was happening. He had been standing on this corner, sweating in the sun, selling lemonade, just to get a little closer to saving his mom. And now, just like that, someone had done the impossible for him. But then, just as relief started to sink in, the man in the suit cleared his throat. "There's one more thing," he said, pulling out a smaller piece of paper. Mr. Eastwood also had this arranged. The boy took it and blinked. It was a job offer for his mom. A fresh start, a new beginning, waiting for her the moment she got better. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he clutched the papers to his chest. He had set up a lemonade stand to save his mom, but in